Welcome to Lifegroup. Before Chris leads you in this week's session, I want to invite you to some upcoming gatherings that we'll have as a congregation for members and friends of Oxford University United Methodist Church. In late February, the United Methodist Church held a general conference, and there was a decision made about our church's stance on human sexuality. In the weeks following General Conference, we held some gatherings with bishops. We heard from our bishop in Mississippi, James Swanson. Then we heard from Bishop Ken Carter, the president of the Council of Bishops of the United Methodist Church. Now we want to hear from you. On Sunday, May 19th, and on Wednesday, May 22nd, we'll have some gatherings. You can choose either one. The Sunday gathering will begin at 3. The Wednesday evening gathering will begin at 6 p.m. We'll have childcare for both. This is an opportunity for you to share your feelings, your responses, your concerns, or even your fears about the work of General Conference. We'll use what you say and what you bring to the table to shape our study and our conversations that we'll have in the fall and in the spring. So these are important gatherings. I hope you can make it to one of them. Again, Sunday, May 19th at 3 p.m. or Wednesday, May 22nd at 6 p.m.
Welcome back to Life Group. We've been talking about Tish Warren's book, Liturgy of the Ordinary. In each chapter and in each session, we've been talking about a way in which our ordinary life, the liturgies of our ordinary existence, connect with the liturgies that we participate in worship. And today what we're talking about is Sabbath rest on Sunday and sleep through the week. Now, if you're like me, you have a hard time going to sleep in the evening. For me, it's hard to wind down. I have so many things going on. I'm so busy throughout the day. And then at the end of the day, I'm thinking about all the things that have to be done tomorrow. And it's difficult for me to wind down. Well, let me just put it another way. It's not just because I'm busy. It's that I also like to entertain myself. I like to check out the next episode of Parks and Rec or Modern Family. I'm just being honest, and I bet you have those as well. Ways in which you value your entertainment more than in some ways you do your own sleep and rest. What are the things that prevent you from sleeping at night? Tish Warren talks about how she has a liturgy of her night, locking her doors, brushing her teeth, getting a glass of water, turning out the light, pulling back the covers, crawling into bed, curling up and closing her eyes. And that mundane habit is good and repetitive and reminds her that at the end of the day, her work doesn't keep the world running, that she needs rest. It's a way of acknowledging something that we acknowledge every week if we're in the habit of practicing Sabbath rest on Sunday, that it's God who keeps the world running, that it's God's work and goodness and grace. In the Psalm 127, the psalmist declares, "Unless the Lord watches the city, the watchman stays awake in vain. It is in vain that you rise up early and go to bed late to rest, eating the bread of anxious toil, for he gives to his beloved sleep." It's God who watches the city, but we forget that in our anxiety and our desire to be productive, in our entertainment addictions, we find ourselves awake more than we should be. And the liturgy of ordinary rest can tell us something about our relationship with God. One of my favorite stories in the Gospels is the story of Jesus on the boat in the midst of the storm. All of the disciples are frantic with fear because of this big storm, but where's Jesus? He's down in the bow of the boat, fast asleep. When the disciples come to him and say, "Lord, Lord, wake up, we have this huge storm," he says, "What are you talking about? Why are you so frantic?" And he says to the storm, "Be still." There's something about the sleep of Jesus that says something about the deep trust with which he lived life before God the Father. I wonder what it is for you that inhibits your rest? Is it a sense that you haven't done enough, that you need to do more or be more in order to fulfill some vision of the good life? What would it look like for you to examine your habits of sleep and rest and Sabbath, both nightly and on the weekends, as a way of examining your relationship with God? What might it look like to adopt a different set of habits, a different set of patterns that ultimately take care of your physical body in such a way that you have room for a spiritual life? I know it's counterintuitive, but it's one of those things that I think we all have to learn, that there's this deep connection between our bodies and our souls. I learned this when I was in college, and I learned it by the wisdom of excess, or the situations in which I had not written the paper and I was procrastinating. I stayed up all night. The next day, inevitably, I would be groggy. I wouldn't be attentive. I couldn't give my best to the people around me or the things that I had to do. Certainly, I didn't have anything left over for God. What would it look like for you and I to adopt better, more robust, but very simple habits of rest and sleep and Sabbath, so that we have this deeper well of connection to God and energy in order to be what the people around us need, in order to do the things that God desires that we do, to give grace and blessing to all we come across. Let's talk tonight about sleep and rest.